The 29th of August, 1922, Volume 14. One who lives in the divine will receives the grafting of the works of Jesus and of the goods which they contain. Continuing in my usual state, I was thinking about how much my sweet Jesus did and suffered to save souls. And he on coming told me, "My daughter, all that my humanity did, prayers, works, words, steps, and pains, is in act of giving itself to man. But who takes it? Who receives the grafting of my works? One who draws near me and prays, uniting herself with me, receives the grafting of my prayer and the goods it contains. One who speaks, who teaches, united with me, receives the grafting and the fruits of my words. And in the same way, one who works, who suffers, united with me, receives the grafting and the goods which are contained in my pains and works. Otherwise, all the goods which I acquired for the creature remain suspended, and not being grafted with me, she cannot enjoy the use of the goods that my humanity wants to give with so much love. If there is no union, the goods of one remain as though dead for the other. Imagine a wheel. The center of the wheel is my humanity. The rays, all that it did and suffered. The circumference on which the rays are fixed is the whole human family, which rotates around the wheel. Now, if the circumference, this second circle of the wheel, does not draw near to receive the connection with the rays remain suspended and cannot communicate the goods which the center of the wheel contains. Oh, how much I suffer in seeing so many goods of mine suspended, which human ingratitude not only does not receive, but despises and tramples. This is why, with great eagerness, I go in search for souls who want to live in my will, to be able to fix in them the rays of my wheel. My will give them grace so as to be able to form the circumference of the second circle of the wheel, and they will receive all my goods which others reject and despise." End of the reading.
The 29th of August, 1926, Volume 19. Only the Supreme Will possesses the nature of true good. Blessings of Jesus, of the title to be given to the writings about his most holy will. My poor mind is always returning to the supreme centre of the eternal will, and if sometimes I think about something else, Jesus himself, with the speaking of his, calls my attention to crossing the unending sea of his most holy will. So since I was thinking about something else, my sweet Jesus, jealous, clasped me to himself and told me, "My daughter, always in my will do I want you, because in it is the nature of good. Only when a good never ends and has no beginning and no end, then can it be called true good. When it has its beginning and its end, a good is full of bitternesses, of fear, of anxiety, and also of disillusion. All this renders good itself unhappy, and many times one passes easily from the good of riches to miseries, from fortune to misfortune, from health to sickness, because all the goods that have a beginning are unstable, fleeting, short-lived, and end up in nothing. It is my supreme will that possesses the nature of true good, because it has no beginning and no end, and therefore its good is always the same, always full, always stable, not subject to any change. This is why all that the soul makes enter into the supreme will, all of her acts formed in it, acquire the nature of true good, because they are done in a stable, immovable will, which contains eternal and immeasurable goods. So your love, your prayer, your thanksgivings, and everything you can do take their place in an eternal beginning that never ends, and therefore acquire the fullness of the nature of good. So your prayer acquires full value and complete fruit, in such a way that you yourself will not be able to comprehend where the fruits and the goods of your prayer will extend. It will go around throughout eternity. It will give itself to all, and at the same time, it will remain always full in its effects. Your love acquires the nature of true love, of that unshakable love that never fails, that never ends, that loves all, gives itself to all, and remains always with the fullness of good, of the nature of true love, and so with all the rest. To everything that enters into my will, the creative power of my will communicates its own nature and converts it into its own acts, because it does not tolerate having within itself acts dissimilar from its own. Therefore, it can be said that the acts of the creature done in my will enter the inscrutable ways of God, nor can anyone know all of their innumerable effects. That which has no beginning and no end renders itself incomprehensible to created minds, which have a beginning, because since the power of an act that has no beginning is missing in them, all the divine things and everything that enters my will render themselves impenetrable and inscrutable. See, then, the great good of operating in my will, to what high place it raises the creature, how she is given back the nature of good just as she was delivered from the womb of her Creator. On the other hand, anything that can be done outside of my will, be it even good, cannot be called true good. First of all, because the divine nourishment and its light are missing, and these acts are dissimilar from my acts, taking away from the soul the likeness of the divine image. In fact, it is my will alone that makes her grow in my likeness. Once my will is removed, the best is removed, the greatest value of the human works. Therefore, those are works emptied of substance, of life, and of value. They are like plants without fruit, food without substance, statues without life, works without retribution, which tire the limbs of the strongest. Oh, how great is the difference between operating in my will and operating without it. Therefore be attentive, and do not give me this sorrow of making me see even one act in you which does not give of my likeness. After this he disappeared, but he came back a little later as though restless because of offences received. Taking refuge in me, he wanted to take rest, and I said to him, "My love, I have many things to tell you, many things to establish between you and me. I must ask of you that your will be known, and that its kingdom have its full triumph. If you rest, I cannot tell you anything. I must be silent to let you rest." And Jesus, interrupting my speaking with unspeakable tenderness, pressed me so very tightly to himself, and kissing me, told me, "My daughter, how beautiful on your lips is the prayer for the triumph of the kingdom of the supreme will. It is the echo of my own prayer, of my sighs, and of all my works. Now I want to see what you wrote about the title to be given to the writings about my will." And as he was saying this, he took this book in his hands, and he seemed to be reading what was written on August the 27th. As he was reading, he remained pensive, as though placing himself in profound contemplation, in such a way that I did not dare to tell him anything. I could only hear that his heart was beating very, very strongly, almost wanting to explode. Then he pressed the book to his breast, saying, "I bless this title. I bless it from my heart, and I bless all the words that regard my will." And raising his right hand with enchanting majesty, he pronounced the words of the blessing. Having done this, he disappeared. End of the reading.
The 29th of August, 1930, Volume 28. How Created Things Are Pregnant with Divine Will. The crosses form the way that leads to heaven. My abandonment in the divine fiat continues. An invincible force transports me into its divine acts, and I feel and know the divine will operating in all created things as it makes me the sweet invitation to follow it in its acts in order to have my company. But while I was doing this, my always lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, all created things are pregnant with my divine will that left itself in them, not for us, who had no need, but for love of creatures, giving itself in as many distinct ways for as many things as it created. Acting as true mother, it wanted to assail the creatures with as much love for as many things as it issued to the light of the day. It wanted to give itself in each instant without interruption, so as to give itself sip by sip, to form its life and extend its kingdom in each soul. This is why you can see there is not one thing from which my fiat does not want to give itself, and it can be said that each created thing forms its throne of love, from which it makes descend its mercy, its graces, and the path in order to communicate its divine life. It is as though on the lookout to see what good it can do to its children if they open their hearts to it, to receive its goods and to conform to its divine ways. So each created thing is a call that it makes to the creature to receive the gift that my divine will wants to give her. Each created thing is a new love that it wants to feed her, and one more act of its life that it wants to carry out toward and inside the creature. But alas, how many ingratitudes on their part! My divine will embraces them, it clasps them to its bosom with its arms of light, but they escape from within its light without returning to it the embrace and looking at who it is that loves them so much. Therefore, my daughter, you be its repairer. Follow it in all the calls that it makes to you by means of each created thing, so as to give it love for love and receive all the sips of its divine life in the depth of your soul, to give it the freedom of letting it reign. Then I was following its acts and my abandonment in the supreme volition, but my poor mind was occupied with the many incidents that our Lord had disposed and disposes for my poor existence. And my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, the crosses, the incidents, the mortifications, the acts, the abandonments of creatures, everything that one can suffer for love of me are nothing other than the pebbles that mark the way that leads to heaven. So at the moment of death, the creature will see that everything she has suffered has served her to form the road that has marked with indelible ways and with unmovable stones the straight path that leads to the celestial fatherland. And if everything that my providence has disposed for her to suffer, she has suffered in order to fulfill my divine will, to receive not the pain, but an act of its divine life, she will form as many sons for as many acts as she has done and pains that she has suffered, in such a way that her road will appear as marked to the right and to the left by sons that, taking her and investing her with their light, will lead her into the celestial regions. Therefore, the many incidents of life are necessary because they serve to form for oneself the road and to mark the way to heaven. If roads are not formed, it is difficult to go from one town to another. Much more so, it is difficult to reach eternal glory." End of the reading.
The 29th of August 1937, Volume 35. How God wants to see his life in the soul who lives in his will, to the extent of becoming her model. Gifts that God gives to his creature. The space of the human will, divine room for the wonders of God. My flight in the divine volition continues. Its attractions and its charming modes become more insistent. Its desire to live in the soul is such that it assumes the attitude now of prayer, now of supplication, now of promise, to the extent of promising to the creature new gifts, more beautiful and unexpected, if she lets it rain. Only the ungrateful could resist so many attentions. But while my mind was crowded by so many supplications and sighs of the divine fiat, my sweet Jesus, my dear life, came back for his short little visit, as if he wanted to pour out his love, all goodness, he told me. My blessed daughter, if you knew into what a maze of love we are put by those who do not live in our will, I can say that for every action they do, every thought, word, heartbeat, breath, that we don't see flowing in our will, the life of our will and our own love becomes repressed. Our will feels such pain that it bursts into tears. It moans and sighs because it does not find its life, its act, its heartbeat, its word, and the sanctity of our intelligence in the creature. Feeling left out, as if cast aside from the interior of the creature and from anything she does. It feels its love being extinguished and its arms being tied, unable to perform its work within her. My daughter, what pain! Being able to give life and not giving it, being able to speak in the human word and being reduced to silence because the creature gives it no place within her word, being able to love with our love in her heart and not finding the place in which to put it. Oh, how our love remains hampered, with almost no life, because the creature does not live in our will. You must know that when the soul doesn't act in our divine will, God becomes her model, while the act becomes the material necessary to receive the divine model. Therefore, our more than paternal goodness is all attentive to see all that the soul living in our will does. As she is about to think, speak, or work, it seals in her the model of its wisdom, the model of its creative word, and the sanctity of its works. Our love is such that we want to become life of her life, heartbeat of her heart, and love of her love. A delirium of love is such that we want to make of her our copy. We can obtain this purpose only with one who lives in our will. After this, he added with even stronger emphasis, My daughter, our love is so great that we do nothing other than give continuous gifts to the creature. The first gift was the whole creation. Then the creation of man came. How many gifts did we not give to him? Gifts of intelligence in which we place the model, the image of our most holy Trinity. The eyes, the hearing, the speech were all gifts that we gave to him. Not only did we give him these gifts, but we also assumed our preserving and creative role to keep these gifts while remaining always in the act of giving them. Our love in donating our gifts is such that we do not detach ourselves from the gift we give. Rather, we remain inside that gift to keep it more safe and guarded. Oh, how exuberant our love is, how it binds us everywhere. Our love lets her give to us, but it does not leave the gifts at the mercy of the creature, since she wouldn't have the virtue to preserve them. So we offer ourselves to keep them. And to love the creature more, we also place ourselves in the act of giving them continuously. How much more should I tell you, my daughter, of the great gift we gave to the creature in creating her human will? First we created the space, then the sky, the stars, the sun, the air, the wind, and so forth. That space had to serve us so that we would create all other works. It would not be a work worthy of our wisdom to create things without having the space in which to place them. In the same way, by creating the human will, we created the vacuum, the place in which to put the great gift of our most holy will that we gave to man. This space had to serve our operating will. We were to place in it the most extensive heavens and the brightest suns. Not a single one, but one for each time man would act. Therefore, while creation had to serve man, this space of the human will was to serve his God, to form his delights, to always be able to form his shelf, his throne, his divine chamber. I gave man this gift, forming this space within him, in order to have the place in which to communicate with him, to be one-on-one with him, in sweet company. I wanted to have my secret room. My love wanted to tell him many things, but I wanted the environment in which to talk to him, and in which my love could reach the extent of giving itself completely to man, while he would completely abandon himself in God. This is why I love so much that he live in our will, because I want what I created to be only for myself. I demand my shelf, my throne, my divine chamber. I cannot accomplish the creation until man comes back into my divine will and gives me my royal palace inside his will. We have so many more beautiful things to do, many more things to say inside our space of the human will, but we cannot say or do because our will is missing. We find our space all cluttered up, so we do not have the space in which to place our works. If we want to speak, he will not understand. He will not even have the hearing to listen. Therefore, we will make unheard of prodigies to acquire again what is ours, the space and our divine room. And you, pray and suffer so that I may have back what is mine. Never refuse me the space of your human will, so that my love may be poured and my works may continue the work of creation. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.